All right, that brings us to step 1, text box 211, selecting a single assessment. Remember, the word assessment in this task means post-assessment, not your pre-assessment baseline data. So you should have already considered what baseline data you're going to use. It may be the same pre-post assessment, but it doesn't have to be. But in text box 211, we are specifically talking about the post-assessment that you will give after your lesson. So like we talked about last semester, you want to begin with the end in mind. What is it that you want your students to gain from whatever lesson you have? And what is the assessment that you're going to do? Are you going to have a checklist of things you're going to ask? Do you have a assignment or a worksheet they're going to turn in? Do you have a exit ticket with some very specific questions you're going to give them? What is it that you will use to make sure they got what they needed based on the content standards, the goals of the lesson, whatever you're working on right now? Create the post-assessment before you teach the lesson. You also will need to include a rubric or some kind of scoring guide for whatever assessment you choose. So make sure you include it as an artifact how you will assess the assessment, how you will grade, and know how the students did on the assessment. Again, it could be a rubric, it could be a scoring guide, but you want to make sure your assessment gives you valuable information and not just multiple choice questions. After you have your assessment, and this is before you teach the lesson, you are going to explain your assessment, give a rationale. Why did you choose this assessment? What was it about your class? What it was about your standards or your pacing guide? What is it that made you choose this assessment? What data did you use to establish baseline growth? So this is where you talk about your pre-assessment, whatever it's going to be. Remember, baseline means pre-assessment. And how did you establish that baseline, that pre-assessment data, and relate it back to your goals for this lesson? Describe your rubric or the scoring guide that you selected or designed. Make sure that whatever you're doing to score it matches whatever your learning goals are. So if your learning goal is for students to be able to add 2-digit by 2-digit numbers, and that's the goal of your lesson, then your post-assessment and rubric should reflect, do students know how to add 2-digit by 2-digit numbers? Make sure it all matches. And then the last one, what evidence of student learning do you plan to collect? How will you collect it? This is just tell me about your process. Is it an assessment that you're going to give to everybody and it's paper and pencil? Is it an interview you're going to do with some certain students? Is it an exit ticket they're going to do on their way out? Just describe how that data is going to be collected.